my name is Conrad, and the good thing about my presentation is that basically I don't have to tell you what I am doing because it's none of our interest today. It's more or less the thing how we are doing the things, or at least how we try to do things. And as Andrea already said, my presentation today is about remote mob programming. And as always, you have a motivation on doing this, and I had a big influencer, so one responsible person. You could call this person maybe also my first mobber. And my first mobber was this guy. Just for data privacy reasons, I had to anonymize this. But maybe you have seen this guy today. So, Damir was the man who influenced me and who showed me the first time the power of pair programming and mob programming. It wasn't only you, but as you're the only person present today, I have picked you as. He organized an ABAP code retreat in Frankfurt. I think it was about 2016 or so. And I was going to this code retreat like, okay, I had like 4 years of ABAP experience, so I felt like, okay, I'm quite a good programmer. And basically, the whole idea about the code retreat was, okay, you get an exercise, you get 1 hour of time, you do pair programming, try to solve the exercise, and do this about 4 or 5 times with different pairs, and try to solve the problem. And this really opened my eyes. So I was sitting to another person who had a completely different perspective also on ABAP, also how they did certain things. And the most fun and the most exhausting thing at the end was the mob programming, where you sat like 4 persons at the laptop, crying at each other, you know, you need to go like this, you need to do it like this, and you saw so many new things. For me, for example, the first time I saw constructor stuff in ABAP, I was like, whoa, this blows my mind. And I was like, wow, mob programming, this is something which I would like to see and I would like to use. And for all of you who don't know what mob programming, there's a beautiful definition of Wu Zhu, who basically says, we gather all persons, all the brilliant, beautiful minds, and all the persons are doing the same thing, but we're not stopping here. It's the same thing. We're doing it the same time. We're doing it in the same space, and this is the special thing about mob programming, we're doing it also on the same computer. So we have one exercise, a group of persons, one computer. How do we do? And the idea is you have one, you call this person driver, so it's the person who's driving, who has the keyboard and is typing all this stuff. And you have the navigators behind you, which try to navigate you into one direction. And it depends on how many navigators you have. If this direction is a very straight line, or it's more like this, but nevertheless, after some navigating, you find the perfect way of doing a thing, or at least a good way of doing a thing. And after the ABAP Code Retreat 2016, I came back to my managers and said, well, listen, I have such a beautiful method. I would like to use this method. We learned so much about it. I think we could really do a good thing using this in a project. So we were basically talking, okay, we would like to try it out. We explained what is the concept about mob programming. We have 4 persons who want to do the same thing, same computer. And the response we got basically was, okay, so you have one task, you're done by 4 persons instead of 1 person, so you mean I have to pay 4 times for the same task? No. kinda no, no deal. So I was a little bit dissatisfied about this. We continued to do the code retreat also internal code retreats in Reply, and we always did pair programming. We always did mock programming, but we always got this problem, okay, when we were talking about, okay, nice examples, it is really cool, but how do you apply this at the customer? And we have to say, well, at the customer it's kind of difficult, you have to see, you have to talk to your manager. So basically the idea always died. I could have finished my my presentation right now, but fortunately I have become manager. And I had a beautiful project, a cloud project, and I had a beautiful team sitting in Germany. So here you have Germany. And our team wasn't based in Munich, our team wasn't based in Berlin, our team wasn't based in Karlsruhe, our team wasn't based in Mainz. We had 4 persons or 5 persons on the team, and every team member was sitting in another city. So, and it's not like everyone in Bavaria, everyone in the south, it's like in whole Germany. So, this was really a pain. 4 or 5 team members, everyone sitting at another place. We had juniors, we had seniors, and we were doing, okay, I'm telling you what I was doing. We were doing a cloud project, basically C4C, where basically development is also not that nice because you need to know what you're doing.
So it helps.
You always should know what you're doing, but the C4C kind of is a one way and you can't return. So the beginning we started this like a classical project, so a classical new style agile project. So we had sprints, yeah, we had agile meetings, daily scrums with 30 persons in a phone call, very productive meetings where everyone wants to say something. My team members had to travel a lot. Yeah, we met in Munich, we met in Karlsruhe, we met in other places. Junior person sitting like this behind the computer. I have no idea how C4C works. I cannot make this done. I cannot reach my senior peer. So we were developing like 1 month, maybe 1.5 months, and we had to say, stop. This can't be the way how we can make a successful project and how we can also become better. Picking up the topic of Damia, we want to become also better in this project, and we see we don't. We're all frustrated. And here comes the moment where I saw a tweet, which I unfortunately didn't find anymore, but this tweet basically said, hey guys, we tried remote mob programming, worked great, check it out. I was like, okay, let's see what it is. And basically remote mob programming wants to put you back in a situation where you're in the playground. And you're not sitting alone in the playground trying out things and cooperate. You know, cooperation, which is the good thing from the first presentation. So you're sitting together, you cooperate, and you try to develop a solution, a product, or a Lego bridge all together. And the thing about remote mob programming is you're sitting alone at your computer, but not fully alone. You have your camera, which is always on. You're using screen sharing. You have some kind of handover. You have a small team here, so you have 4 other persons who are navigating. Of course, you can be at home, down with your family. You don't have to travel. And you have one typist which is changing. Yeah, so it's basically the setting of a normal mock programming, just remote. So also the setting basically looks the same. Yeah? You have navigators who try to navigate, although it is more difficult if you're doing it remote because you have only one person who can talk, and it's difficult when everybody wants to talk. And we can't switch the keyboard, obviously, because switching the keyboard would mean I would go to Karlsruhe to give the next person the keyboard. Yeah? You need to do a code handover. Obviously, I wrote here GitHub because GitHub would be the best way to do this. Obviously, in C4C, as there is no GitHub, you couldn't use GitHub, but you need some kind of transmitting the code and working from another laptop. The rules we set to all this was, first rule, everybody is remote, and this is very important. So you can't have a pair of persons work together in one room, and then another two persons sitting alone at home. This doesn't work because then there is no, the balance is missing, yeah? Because the persons sitting together will automatically communicate another way than the persons communicating by the video messaging. We found that changing or the time which is good for changing is 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah? So we didn't say, okay, after 10 minutes the clock is there and then we need to change, but it's more or less, okay, finish your stuff, finish your work, okay, now is a good moment for changing. We also found that the changing thing is good if you're really coding, but if you have some kind of, for example, an architectural discussion, it's more or less like we don't code, but we try to discuss this in a group, and then we try to fix our result into some kind of documentation, for example, in Conference or whatsoever. So we break out of this session exchange for architectural discussions. We have screen sharing, always with camera on. The team is about 3 to 4 persons, and you need an obligatory break because working in such a kind of environment is really exhausting. You wouldn't believe it unless you do it. Yeah? So we started with 2 or 3 days where we really had this like 6, 7, 8 hours without having real breaks, like more or less like the lunch break, but after 2 days you're completely exhausted because you don't have anymore this small breaks which you are doing when you are working for yourself, like checking emails, looking up WhatsApp, going on Twitter and so on. You don't have these breaks anymore, yeah, because you have this social responsibility of staying here and staying focused on the problem. Yeah? So it's important to say, okay, 2 hours or 2 rounds, let's make a break. So obviously this still sounds like there's 5 persons doing the same job. I mean, we didn't change very much, we didn't change much things. But what we saw is that in this kind of environment, we really get better products. So of course it might take a little bit longer, but the code we have is stable, mostly stable, of course. We have included code review. So in your normal cycle, you would like develop things, yeah, then I don't know how you are working, but normally you would have a second code review or something. So you need a second person who's changing the context, has to log in, has to do the code review. We don't need that because basically we have 6 eyes looking at the code at least. Yeah, so we don't need a code review. We saw that especially our juniors got very productive very, very quickly. And it's quicker than sending them to a workshop, to lessons saying, hey, you need to do this SAP course. When we're sitting together with experts and looking, and also if they're, the best thing is if they are the typists, so they have to type, yeah, you have the seniors behind, and they guide him and show them things that actually they wouldn't have seen otherwise in 2 or 3 years doing normal SAP development. You get rid of know-how silos. So I guess everyone knows the situation when you have a project, you have the one person doing this one thing, and this person gets or goes on vacation, happens sometimes. Then for 2 weeks, this thing is basically closed. I mean, you have no person who can take over the tasks, or even if you say, okay, take over the task, it's like the things which this person would have done in 1 hour, now are 2 or 3 days of development, of finding the way how to do it. And we saved a lot of additional meetings, because we were talking all the time together. So there is no need of doing daily scrum, for example. We are basically doing scrumming all together. What are the drawbacks? One drawback is, as I said, 8 hours a day is not feasible. It's not feasible over a longer time because it's really, really exhausting. Second thing is, if you have seniors involved, of course, when you work with juniors, seniors might have the impression that they are getting getting the things done slower than they would have done if they would have been alone. So the third thing is actually the most important one, empathy. So you need a team. And in this kind of scenarios where you are working really close together, digitally close together, you really realize, do I have a team or do I have some dysfunctions? So this is really interesting to see how also the, let me say, emotions or relations vary between a team. And of course, you need to explain that the manager and also the customer. So why aren't you working on 5 tasks at the same time? Why are you all concentrating on one task? And as a finish, and also a motivation for you, how could I start? So let me be the first model for you if you want to start. Next time you think about mob programming, you have my face. Start easy. Start really easy. Pick one task. Pick the tools you have. So for example, we are using Microsoft Teams, which is probably not the best tool for doing it, but still we have this tool, so why not doing it? My recommendation would be also using the same IDE, because in this way you can also share, for example, the way of doing things like shortcuts, which are different in different IDEs. And so if you are using the same IDE, you can explain shortcuts, you can learn new things. Use Git if you can, or use something where you exchange code and you can see how my code is developing. And use a 2-screen setup at least. So you have one screen where you're working, you have a second screen where you can also do some research or have the pictures of your brilliant, nice colleagues. So you can concentrate on your task and still have the second screen as a kind of assistance. Last page, resources. If you want to start, very good page is, and easy to remember, remotemobprogramming.org. So these guys are doing this like for real for 1 year in a project, and at least they are telling it works fine, and I can believe in this statement. Then there's a good book about mob programming in general, and also how to do mob programming, also how to, because there are different scenarios how you can do it. So do you have one navigator, one expert which is looking from the side, who should be the typist, so we can mix this a little bit up. And there's also a YouTube link which I shared from Rudi Zohl, where he explains also mob programming. So also this is not remote mob programming, or not particularly remote mob programming, but in the end, remote mob programming is the same as mob programming, so just on different screens. Thank you very much. I think I put some time in.
Questions?
Time for a quick couple of questions.
You talked about the importance of the team. Would you say that you have to construct the team in a special way beforehand, or do you have like special team activities in the beginning so they grow together?
It's a good question, because what I forgot to say is, although you're working remote, it is very important that you see each other also on a regular basis in real life. To be honest, so what worked out for us in a good way was to have 2 seniors, 2 juniors, so have a kind of heterogeneous mixed group. I'm not sure how good this works, for example, if you have all persons on the same level. I think this heterogeneity helps also a little bit to facilitates to work together.
Okay, so you mean the skill level.
Yeah, so the skill level.
More when you talk about
Okay, no, I mean the skill level.
Okay.
The personalities, of course, you can't change them. So.
Anyone else with a quick question?
Yeah. So my question is, do you already have experience in which project management framework this could work? For example, Scrum, or what are you using behind this?
Yeah. So we had an Agile Scrum project where we used it. worked fine. Although I have to say we started using it at the end of the project, so, or from the mid of the project, and also we didn't do this like 5 days a week, but more or less 2 days a week, yeah. But because of other restrictions like other projects and so on.
Okay, thank you very much, Conrad.